أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا مولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله. In the name of Allah, the gracious, the merciful, all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the universe, the Master of the Day of Judgment. I bear witness and testimony to the oneness of Allah, to His magnificence, His omnipotence, His might, His glory, to His being the creator and sustainer of all things, the giver of life, the guider of hearts, the master of the Day of Judgment. And I bear witness to the fact that Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is a servant and final messenger. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him and upon all those who choose to tread his path until the last day. In Surah Al-Hashr, Allah Azza wa Jal, He addresses those who are members of this deen, this faith, saying, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu taqullaha wal tanzur nafsun ma qaddamat lighad wattaqullaha innallaha khabirun bima ta'malun. That all people of Iman have taqwa of Allah, and let each individual soul take into account what they have made ready for tomorrow. Then again, He admonishes to have taqwa of Allah, that indeed Allah is aware of everything that we do. This verse is a verse that most would say are revealed in the Medieval period of revelation. That the initial construct of Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu in and of itself is an address that we find mostly coming after the Hijrah takes place from Mecca to Medina. And you want to be able to contextualize it and recognize it, that the environment was a little bit distinct from what people were exposed to in comparison to what was happening in the Meccan period of Islam. There's now community. There's now moments for tranquility. There's now an opportunity to really dig deep and say, what is being established? And in those moments where Allah Azza wa Jal is interjecting now a legalistic framework upon which one can thrive and build and deepen in their growth communally, still too individually. He is addressing anybody who calls himself a Muslim. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, from a legalistic standpoint, is not just those who inwardly have Iman, but the address is going to anyone and everyone who falls within now this prism of saying, I'm a follower of Islam, whether that's outwardly and inwardly, meaning it's applicable to all of us. And then twice therefore, He then adds this admonition of being one that has taqwa of Allah. May Allah make us from amongst the muttaqeen. Sandwiched in between these two ideas of taqwa is a notion that becomes imperative for each of us to equip ourselves in our own spiritual diets and arsenal. Which is that you take time in that prism of consciousness to sit and reflect on what is it that I'm really doing with myself. وَلْيَنْظُرْ نَفْسٌ مَا قَدَّمَتْ لِغَدٍ. Nadara is a little bit different from just taking a look at something. Because there's so many ways to say see in Arabic. You can look at something, and it can also be basira, basara. You can look at something, and it can simply be ra'a. So nadara is more nuanced than that. It's not just looking at this thing, but looking at it for a long period of time. You're giving it its due diligence. And it's rooted now in a recognition that what it is that you as an individual, each individual soul, each nafs, taking the time to anticipate what is it that I'm getting ready for in terms of what's coming beyond this existence. God, in the sense not of the literal tomorrow, that is going to be us on this day of Jumu'ah, Friday, looking at what tomorrow, Saturday is going to bring. But in the broader sense of a tomorrow that says, what am I readying myself for here in terms of what's going to come in the world beyond this? May Allah make us all people of Jannah. That in each and every opportunity, you start to now bear a deep perspective introspectively that allows for accountability that's not rooted in paranoia of any kind, but a recognition that my growth has to be something, albeit gradual, something that's consistent. And I'm in a space where I'm not running on empty. I don't let exhaustion be what it is that dictates my decision-making in this world. I take the time to sit and be still and be present. These are people now who are in a Medina's area. If you've ever gone to Medina to Munawwara, may Allah make us all from amongst those who visit the illuminated city of the Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And may He make us those who witness an end to the inequity that comes out of the countries that are responsible for being caretakers of those beautiful cities. You can go into Medina to Munawwara, even today. The Fajr is done and you're sitting outside and the green dome is upon you. And the gentleness, the tranquility, the literal winds that you can feel going against you in Medina. If any of you have ever been there, you know what I mean. The only other place in the world that I have felt that kind of tranquility is sitting in the Haram in Jerusalem. May Allah end the occupation of Palestine. These are people who are in that city, the city of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a city that is just filled with barakah, filled with blessing. They're in a place now where they have left persecution. They have left behind boycotts and abuse and anything that could really rile them up in terms of outward challenge that Medina does not offer to them. Why is the divine saying to them in that space now of rest and tranquility that is the Medina's experience of Islam? Be mindful of what's going on. You still got tomorrow to get ready for it. That you went through everything that you went through in Mecca, definitively. May Allah make it easy. You go through everything that you went through, and challenges were there in abundance. But now we're in a place where you have literally the establishment of a community where you are surrounded by people who believe what you believe, who it's not abnormal for you to practice your practice, that you can dress how they dress and eat what they eat, and the adhan will be called, and it can be a moment of stillness. Literally, the Prophet is able to say to Bilal radiallahu anhu when he makes the adhan, "Arahna biha." It's not done in a state of fear or anxiety. They can, for the first time every day of their life, just go out and be Muslim. He's saying, just remember, you still got tomorrow to get ready for. There's still something that even happens beyond this. I want you to think for yourself in the moment that you are right now. We have everybody move up a bit. The sisters, if you can make sure that we're filling all the space, because a lot of people will be coming in. You want to be able to position who it is that you are right now in the framing of what this verse is giving. A retrospective introspection that also combines that retrospect with foresight. Understanding where it was that I was in relation to where I am now so that I can take the combination of both as a determinant to think where it is that I want to be in the long term. I'm not just a product of the moment that I live in this moment. You have lived an entire existence. Everybody around you has lived many yesterdays prior to it. The state of the believer is the one that is able to understand and recognize with deep contemplation that they're not just about immediacy in anything. So you take time to bear stillness into your routine. The inventory. You give yourself an opportunity to think. Some of you have been in New York City just for a few weeks. May Allah give you only the best in this world and the best in the next. Are you where you want to be in relation to where you thought you would be when you first came to this place? In terms of where you're allocating your time, in terms of the relationships you're building, in terms of how it is that you create work-life balance, in terms of commitments to prayer and fasting and reading Quran or volunteerism or just checking in on people, calling friends. You've been in a place where you can recognize what it means to take a certain sense of accountability rooted in this verse that is imperative for us to build a deep relationship with, not for any other reason other than you want to be able to experience growth in your life. You don't want to be in a place where every single day is exactly the same. It shouldn't be in a state of existence that undermines what it is that we actually are supposed to aspire for conviction. But you're going to surround yourself in a world that is not devoid of belief because everybody has some form of reasonable faith. We can come into this room and all of you have reasonable faith that Jumu'ah is going to happen. There's an elevator broken coming up on the way. You still know there's going to be a way to get up here. You have faith that that will exist. The same way we hit a light switch and the lights will turn on, the same way that you turn on a faucet and you know water is going to come out, that's reasonable faith. You want to have faith in what this tradition teaches you in terms of pillars of Iman, the same way you believe that the water is going to turn on when you twist the faucet, you want to believe that the hereafter is real. And not dilute yourself or your vision in a sense of just what is worldly. Things that teach you to engage in a pursuit of secularism that is not godless in its base, but something that in addition to that tells you that this is it. That's all that's there. And Allah is saying in this verse, to take a long look at what it is that you're getting ready for tomorrow. At the end of the verse, he says, Allah is aware of what you're doing. So even if there's not a consciousness or recognition, you don't have the khabar yourself of what it is that's taking place. That Allah has created the mechanisms, the systems, the accountability. The spiritual vehicle that this verse establishes for us is called muhasabah. Taking yourself into account, doing hisab of yourself. That in Arabic as a language, when you look at the word hisab, it means a lot of different things. You can go to a restaurant and at the end of the meal, you can tell the waiter to bring you your bill. That's hisab. You're studying math in different parts of the world where Arabic is the medium. Math is rooted in hisab. Our spiritual tradition of muhasabah is rooted in a recognition of a theological principle in our religion that every Muslim has to believe in order to be Muslim, which is the idea that there is an hereafter. It's not debatable in Islam as a tradition. The way that people can go into the minutiae of principles of Iman and can go back and forth and build different opinions. Nobody can have a different opinion and claim to be within the definition of Islam where they can say that the hereafter doesn't exist. Now, the opportunity to have conviction in it, attaching it to this idea of inventory, muhasabah, the link is critical because you're bringing purpose and intentionality into why am I taking myself into account in the first place? What is the whole point of me being able to inventory my day's routine, my week, what it is that I have going on? You don't want to have a trivial understanding of what this religion is about. Because there's nothing that Allah gives to us that's meant to be a means of pushing us down or hating ourselves. That's a tool of shaitan. May Allah protect us from this. But you want to be able to have a reflection that allows for you to think deeply about why do the things that make me happy actually make me happy? Why do I get sad and upset by the things that I get sad and upset by? What kind of things are give an abode in my heart, that when I am taking account for myself in the course of the deed, why did I get upset with that person in that way? Why did I have this issue of anger? Why is it hard for me to maintain my promises? Why am I not somebody that can be relied upon? And the opposite is a necessity to be able to have a recognition of what real inventorying is. Because as you are going through it, the idea is to not just peck away at yourself piece by piece, saying, here's where I'm terrible, here's where I'm terrible, here's where I'm terrible. You're also inventorying what it is that you do well, the things that you have full capacity to do, the things that you do good. You're able to, within that course, really take sense of what it is that life is going for in terms of you. There hasn't been a day in the last however many months, if not years, where at least not one person, if many more, has reached out in person, over the phone, Zoom, email, whatever else way. They try to contact me on social media, I don't respond to those. And each one is trying to make sense of difficulty that is taking place in their life that is just suffocating. The absence of inventorying becomes a challenge because what do we then base our pursuits off of, if not attached to an idea that there's a world beyond this one that we're working towards? You create for yourself formulaic understandings of success that say that I will go to school and then I will get a degree and then I will get a job and then maybe I'll get another degree and maybe I'll get married and then I'll have some babies. But what if life doesn't work out in that way? Does everything suddenly stop and derail? This is not a religion that posits that ni'mah is simply rooted in what society tells you is a blessing. The only universal blessing that our religion claims is the blessing of Iman. Nobody can debate that that is not a ni'mah. But every other thing that you might acquire might be good for someone and might not be good for you. Something might be great for you and it could be terrible for somebody else. Allah give us only ease in this world and in the next. You can think that marriage is what exactly it is that you want because that's what somebody's drilled in your head. I can put you in front of hundreds of people right now that marriage is anything other than a ni'mah in their life. You can think that wealth in and of itself is what you need to be able to have happiness. But I can put you in front of tons of people right now that the wealth and affluence that they have is actually the greatest tribulation in their existence. The idea that somehow, categorically, there's a general blessing that will be equally experienced by each of us is just not the way things work. And dissonance then becomes the means through which I start to make sense of my life, that it's supposed to make me happy. Why is it not making me happy? I thought it was going to make me happy, but it's just giving me more misery. Contentment is something that allows for both contentment to exist in addition to other feelings. That balance inwardly is something that can still allow for you to be sad, to still have grief, to still have anxiety. Allah is the one that gave you all of your emotions in the first place. There's purpose to them. As you start to dig deep and start to think about what it is that I really want to be achieving. There's people who came in the last couple of weeks and they had never been in this city before. And they said, I don't know how to pray my prayers as I live in this city. It is chaotic. Everybody's running after something. Everybody's chasing after something. Everybody's going after something. And a week later, I said, how's it going? And they said, it's going better. We're learning to adapt. It's part of your spiritual growth. Ibn Ata'illah and his hikam, his wisdoms, his aphorisms, one of his wisdoms, he says that you can essentially tell if you are reliant upon your deeds, meaning other than being reliant on Allah. That you can tell you're reliant upon your deeds because when you become despondent, as a shortcoming develops in your deeds, you start to lose hope. That's an indication that you're too reliant upon those actions instead of the ones that you're supposed to be performing the actions for. It's not a tradition that undermines the ability to act. That when the verse says Allah has awareness of what you do, the amal is distinct from the fa'il, because a fa'il is an act that happens devoid of consciousness. It doesn't need for you to have presence. And there's rahmah in this. Can you imagine if you had to think before every breath you took? Allah make it easy for those who are not able to breathe on their own. There's literally people filled in hospitals, attached to ventilators and apparatus because they can't do it. Can you imagine what your existence would be if every single time you had to blink your eye, you had to think about it first? Now I'm going to blink. Now I'm going to blink. Now I'm going to blink. There's a deep rahmah in the way that we are constructed, that there are certain things that are just automated, but certain things are not supposed to also be automated. You are supposed to be a consciously existing creature. And the consciousness is not just that, oh, there's a chair next to me. Oh, there's a person next to me. And I'm aware of its existence. But it is rooted in an ethical imperative that attaches you to an understanding that you are not simply the body that walks on this earth that is going to return back to the ground from which it was initially formed. You are a soul that is traversing multiple realms of existence. And you are made to be a person of Jannah. So don't live for anything other than that pursuit. That's why muhasabah becomes important. How many deeds and decisions can I take a look at to be able to say that this was really done with a recognition that another world exists after this one? We have everyone move up. We come close. And for people who are kind of getting close here to the door, we can just move to that side of the room, because we'll have this get blocked up, so we can kind of push towards the windows as well. That would be amazing. If somebody wants to actually just direct people as they're coming in now, maybe somebody can stand. Thanks, man. So that muhasabah, it's a regular practice. The opportunity for it necessitates understanding who you are as a whole being and parts of yourself that you don't want to give benefit of the doubt to. Somebody doesn't do what you expect them to do. You see them doing something different. You practice what's called husn al-dhan. You make excuses for your brothers and sisters. But when you're dealing with the nafs, the lower self, the part of you that you do not want to have sovereign over you, you don't want to have husn al-dhan of the nafs. You want to have what's called su' al-dhan. That you want to be in a place where you're willing to actually not let it have the control that it does. When it tells you to take the easier way out, to be lazy, to not prepare, to not be generous. When it says to you that somebody else is going to do what you have full capacity to do, you give yourself an indication that that's not the voice that I want to hear echoing within me. It's not what it is that I'm actually wanting to work towards. Ali radiallahu anhu, he says that you want to be of this world with a recognition that it's a place of action. He says that this dunya, it is traveling away from you. And the next world, the akhirah, it's traveling towards you. And both dunya and akhirah, Ali radiallahu anhu, he says that both have their own children. So choose to be a child of the hereafter, not a child of this world, he says. Choose to be a child of the hereafter, not of this world. For this world is a place of action, not reckoning. But the world tomorrow will be a place of reckoning, not action. You can't do anything after you leave from this place. You can't stand in front of Allah on the day of judgment and say, let me go back and be kinder to my spouse. Let me go back and get the help I needed for my own healing, so I'm not hurting people in the ways that my hurt compels me to. Let me go back and just pray an extra 2 rak'ahs. Let me go back and seek forgiveness from that person that I hurt. Let me go back and engage in some volunteerism. Give some more of my money in charity. Give some more of my time to my children. Let me go back and spend it a little bit differently. That's not a world of doing. That's the world where you are taken into account for what you did. May Allah grant us entrance into His Jannah without any judgment. This is the place of action. This is where you do. The relationship between Iman and Amal is mentioned repetitively in the Quran. And this verse of Surah Hashr is giving us an indication that you just want to wake up a bit. You allow for yourself to not be mindlessly roaming through this dunya. But you allow for yourself to not also have to go in pursuit of finding meaning or purpose. Allah is telling you what it's all about. You came from a place. You're trying to get back to that place. That's just what it simply is. You are Abd, He is Rabb. That's what it is. There is Jannah, there's Jahannam, but all of it is eternal existence. This is temporary. That is forever. That's what it is. Conviction and belief have the ability to inform what it is that we do, not because we claim it simply from a tongue, but it starts to have a space within us, deep root in our hearts. Muhasabah allows for you to sit for a moment and just think, what is it that I'm doing? Where is it that I'm going? It is not self-deprecation. It is not hitting on yourself. When was the last time you took some moments to just be still? And then to allow for yourself to acknowledge that, hey, some of that came from me. A story that we've told before that has importance in this moment involves a sheikh who tells his students, you want to see the difference between a student of fiqh, a student of externals, and a student of the heart, a student of internals? The students say to the sheikh that, yes, we do. And so he says that when your classmate walks in next and gives you salam, don't return the salam. And so they agree that in our Sharia, the giving of the salam is not fard. It's something that is a recommended act. But if you meet somebody and you didn't give them salam, it's not an obligation the way praying Fajr is an obligation. But if somebody gives salam and that response is not given, it's a fard kifaya to respond to the salam. Somebody gave a salam, somebody better respond to that salam. And so the student comes in and he gives the salam. Assalamu alaikum. Nobody responds to it. A second time, he gives the salam and again is met with silence. And then a third time, he gives it again. And now there's agitation. And he says to these people, don't you know it is obligatory upon you to return my greeting? And the second student, the sheikh says, when he comes in and gives salam, don't return it. The student of the heart, the student of the internal. And again, they agree. And when the student comes in and he gives salam a first time, a second time, a third time, just like the one that came moments before, met with silence each and every time. He responds to them now and says, did I do something to offend you that you are not returning my greeting? Tries to see where he's a part of it. Doesn't just point the finger at where everybody else is wrong. You got to see the difference. The point of this religion is not to just engage mindlessly in practice of ritual for the sake of it. You go to a place where you take account for yourself, because if it's not done in this world, it's going to be done in the next world. May Allah grant us ease there. Most people have challenges with accountability. They don't want to believe that they're responsible for what they do. Our religion is about ethics. Our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sent to be a refiner of good conduct. He was sent to perfect good character. Can you think about anything that is more lacking of ethics and morals than an individual who runs away from the moral responsibility of the consequences of their actions? Somebody who says that I will not take myself into account. I will pretend like what it is that I didn't even happen. You don't want to be somebody with power in any type of relationship that hurts those who are on the other end of the power balance and thinks that there's nothing that's going to happen. Allah grant you peace. Amen. You don't want to grow up to be a man who thinks it's okay to mistreat his woman. You don't want to be a father or mother who somehow justifies yelling, screaming, even striking their children. May Allah protect us from this kind of ignorance. Amen. You don't want to be in a place where you can somehow believe that the results and ramifications of your actions are not your responsibility. At the end of it all, there's going to have to be an explanation. What are you going to tell Allah about why you did the things that you did, but why you chose to not do what you did not do, even when you had the ability to do it? When you start to take into account an inventory, you do the muhasabah. You allow for yourself to say, I'm going to be smart enough. I'm going to use my intellect. The aql is something that I will ignite. I'm going to find moments of stillness. I'm going to allow for myself to understand the process. You want to get to a place, one, you got to have fundamental understanding of right and wrong that is not relative to your understanding alone. It's not that you are subservient to your hawa, your whims, your desire. I think, I feel, I want. But you pick up the Quran, you pick up the hadith, you go to the classes, you go to the halakas. You allow for yourself to have an actual knowledge base that becomes the determining factor. And if you're going to choose knowledge that came from the divine, the one that's looking for a reason to accept from you, to bring you close, not push you down the way most people in this world bring themselves up by making you feel like garbage. You put your trust in his messenger, a man who 14 centuries ago, despite being forgiven, despite knowing he's the best of creation, still for some reason stood into the late hours of the night, making dua for you. Once you get that information, you sit down and you start to actualize it. You want to have a place where you can start to see, understand the gap between what you know and what you do with what you know. It doesn't matter if you got tons of books on a shelf that you can spit out all kinds of memorized information and regurgitate it. If you still treat people like garbage, you're treating them like garbage. If you're still not getting done what you need to get done, you are not upholding responsibility. I chose to be a father. I can't say that that's something I can turn my back on. You chose to be married. You need to step up and do what it needs. You chose to be a student. You chose to work in the work that you're in. You chose a lot of the things you chose. You now need to deal with what it is that you have responsibility towards. And the things that are going to help you get ready to honor the rights of those that are going to come into your life as you get older and they get younger and vice versa. That you start doing well what's in front of you right now. You don't have a lackadaisical attitude towards it. When you stand on the day of judgment, man, there's nobody that you're going to be able to point a finger at. There's nobody that's going to be there. The day where wealth does nothing, offspring does nothing. People will turn against their loved ones because everything is going to be put out full force. This was your entire existence. Allah grant us ease on that day. Are you living the best version of yourself at this moment? The behaviors, the attitudes, the things that come from you. Taqwa is not khawf. They're two different things. That consciousness is not fear. It's a different word altogether. You allow for yourself to tap into your heart and you tap into your mind. And you sit and you start to inventory. Things come up that might be difficult. Get somebody that you can reflect with, that can allow for you to process that. This is a deen that is not against any type of recognition of your emotional wellness, your mental wellness. You need a space to be able to express objectively, then go and do it. Somebody tells you that you're doing something wrong. If you do that, don't listen to them. They're foolish. Your heart is the most precious part of you. You got to watch over it so that it's empowered to watch over you. That's what muraqabah is. You watch over your heart so that it watches over you. You do hisab of yourself so that you can reach your potential best. You allow for yourself to be able to embrace your luminosity. You're not afraid. Our teachers, they tell us that as children, we're afraid of the dark, but as you get older, you become afraid of the light. Think about what it's all about to you. Your belief is within you. You sit down and you allow for yourself to take stillness. On this day of Jumu'ah, take an opportunity to think within yourself. Am I where I need to be? Am I really doing it and getting it done in the ways that I should be getting it done? Why am I cutting the corners I'm cutting? Why have I turned my way against certain things that I didn't even think I would ever give up on? What am I really in pursuit of? What is it that I'm really chasing after in the midst of all of this? And the beauty of that knowledge is that if you're not where you want to be, you still have opportunity to get it done. Everybody has things they can improve upon. Perfection is a futile endeavor to pursue. That's not what this religion is about. But if you've never stopped to even think about where am I going, if you've never sat down to even think about, did I really do wrong or right by somebody else? Why wouldn't you end up being where you are today? And so the admonition is true, the counsel is true, that you want to take yourself into account before you're taken into account. May Allah make us from amongst those who engage in this practice on a regular basis. And allow for us to be from those who benefit from what it is that we learned of ourselves today, so that we're not afraid to meet the people we can meet tomorrow. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله تعالى فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا مولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله. Before this day of Jumu'ah ends, you go into the weekend, pull out a notebook, and just write at the top of it, where am I headed to? Allow for yourself to engage in the practice. It's a spiritual tool that's given for the betterment of our inward self. And as things come out and you allow for yourself the vulnerability to engage in it, recognize that the idea is to not compare yourself to anybody else. It's just you with you. You'll be surprised as to where it is that you can end up. And if any of us can help you in that pursuit, you need somebody to talk to, you need a space to express where there's confidentiality. It's not always easy to open up to those that you see in certain settings on a regular basis. Let us know what it is that we can do for you. Because our collective pursuit for one another is that we want for each other what we want for ourselves. So I want to go to Jannah. And I want you to go to Jannah. I want all this to be together in Jannah. And may Allah make it so. And this is the place that we got to get things done. And all we got to do is try our best. Because what our Quran teaches us, what our Hadith teaches us, is that our God is looking for any reason to just accept from us. So you want to do for his sake, Azza wa Jalla. One that loves you more than a mother loves his child. A God that believes in you more than you believe in yourself. A God that is not just watching you, but watching over you. Allow for yourself to just think about what it is that you are doing in pursuit, not of a feeling, not in pursuit of what it is that I yield to the performance of something. But what am I doing that God is asking me to do, knowing that he's asking me to do what is just a benefit to me? Inshallah ta'ala, will be a means of benefit for all of us. Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi. يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد في الأولين وفي الآخرين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم إنك عفو كريم تحب العفو فاعف عنا يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين. We begin this supplication in your name, Ya Allah. We beseech you to send your choicest salutations upon your most beloved sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. We ask that you shower your infinite mercy upon this gathering, granting each and every one who is present here and our loved ones only the best in this world and the best in the next. We ask, Ya Allah, that if all of us are meant to be together only at this time, at this place, whether we are young or old, male or female, regardless of our race, our ethnicity, our social class, our country of origin, our cultural heritage, whether we are Muslim or come from a different walk of life, Ya Rabbi, our individual hearts are meant to be in the presence of all of their hearts that are gathered here, only at this time, at this place. We gather us all together again in the best of places in the world beyond this one. Increase us, Ya Allah, in all that is good. Increase us in courage, compassion, and confidence. Protect us from any affliction, anxiety, or anguish. Remove from our hearts any feelings of bitterness, jealousy, animosity, or envy towards any of your creation. Grant us hearts that are filled with understanding and love. Hearts that are drawn towards things of true goodness and beauty. Hearts that find themselves deep in your remembrance. For indeed in your remembrance do hearts find rest. Make us those, Ya Allah, who find places of stillness, so that we might silence the chaos and agitation that takes place within us in so many different ways. Help us to find an inward peace so that we might make sense of this world as we traverse it. And allow for our ultimate destination to only be in the highest levels of your Jannah with all those whom we love in the company of your most beloved sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. Help us, Ya Allah, to be comfortable with the things that we need to improve upon. Make us those who are not afraid to acknowledge and admit our mistakes, to seek forgiveness from those that we have hurt and wronged, to forgive those who have hurt and wronged us. Make us those, Ya Allah, who are willing to acknowledge our own ability to do good, to embrace our capacity to be a source of hope and benefit. Let not any one of us leave this world other than in a state that is most pleasing to you, a state that will give us entrance into your Jannah. Protect us always from hearts that are not humble, tongues that are not wise, and eyes that have forgotten how to cry. Forgive us for our shortcomings and guide us all. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين وقم الصلاة.
Yes. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayya ala-salah, hayya ala-falah. Qad qamatis salah, qad qamatis salah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah.
Please straighten your lines to make sure you're standing shoulder to shoulder. Try and shift as much as you can towards the windows, towards the walls, so anyone coming in can join. الله أكبر.
الله.
الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون ولا تكونوا كالذين نسوا الله فأنساهم أنفسهم أولئك هم الفاسقون. لا يستوي أصحاب النار وأصحاب الجنة أصحاب الجنة هم الفائزون. لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله وتلك الأمثال نضربها للناس لعلهم يتفكرون. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله. الله أكبر.
الله أكبر.
الله أكبر. الله أكبر.
الله أكبر.
الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
آمين.
هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم. هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر سبحان الله عما يشركون. هو الله الخالق البارئ المصور له الأسماء الحسنى يسبح له ما في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
It's a really important announcement. There's a sister in the community who's behind on rent. She's about to face eviction and will ultimately be homeless as a result. So Sadhika from today is going to go to help her to just catch up. She had been hospitalized with some severe medical issues that caused her to lose her job and is now in this circumstance. So whatever you can give in the Sadhika boxes on the way out will be appreciated. We'll be giving all of it to her to help her pay that back rent so she doesn't have to deal with the stress, inshallah. For those of you who are students here, the Washington Square MSA and the Tandon MSA is hosting an event today. We'll be going to, I think, Brooklyn Bridge Park around 4 o'clock until Maghrib time. I'll be leaving from here at 3:30 from Salah. For people who want to go, and if you want to meet them there, you can meet them there. And the MSA here also is running its mentorship program, and today is the last day to apply. So please do look at their social media as well as the postings that they have in the WhatsApp groups to sign up for that. We're going to be starting all of our regular halakas from next week. We started our food distribution volunteering on Wednesday. This past Wednesday, alhamdulillah, we were able to feed 100 homeless people in the area. Please make dua that Allah makes this community continues to benefit those in need, as well as our classes starting and other things. So just look out for that via email. On Monday, we're going to begin hosting iftars on Monday nights here. So if people want to join in that, we'll be having the iftar and the salah on the 4th floor following the halakha that will take place before. Somebody